It's always funny how on youth Sunday, everybody come to church. And then everybody asks you, what y'all gonna be doing at y'all church? And you say, we ain't gonna be doing nothing. Pastor Bob gonna be out of town. He ain't gonna be here. So you be like, come back next Sunday. But they still show up. But that's all right. When Brother T asked me to speak, I told him yes. And then I got a message. I'm taking an online class, and my professor actually sent this test one night before the test was due. So I sent Brother T an email back. I said, Brother T, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this. I just found out I gotta take this test and it's due tomorrow. And so he said, well, if I send you a little something, you think you might can add a little bit to it and, work on it? I said, well, all right, Brother T, I see. So then I emailed something, then we went to a wedding, then I came home and I said, let me text Brother T because he told me evening, I was gonna be on the evening program. So I'm expecting to speak at night. I get up this morning, look at my email, it said morning and number 1. The very first one. So I said, okay. I said, well, a good thing I stayed up a little later. So, not gonna be before you long. It's still, anytime you get up, you just get a little nervousness, but it'll all pass and it'll be all right. I'm gonna be coming to you from the book of John, chapter 11. I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but it talks about the death of Lazarus. John 11:25 is the verse that I'm going to read for you this morning, and it's from the Amplified version. And it says, Jesus told her, I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die like everyone else, they will live again. Sometimes in life, you notice life throws you curveballs. Things don't always seem to go your way that you hope for or plan, perhaps through no fault of your own. Things sidetrack you, or perhaps that you're not aware of, or different things take places in your life. Some of the sidetrackers can be illnesses, relationships gone sour, marriage problems, unexpected death of a loved one, a job loss, unforeseen bills, just to name a few. These can cause us to worry, be discouraged, and lose hope. Now, I have one story that I'm going to talk about, which is the one of the death of Lazarus this morning. And it shows you some curveballs of what happens in the story. Because no matter how much life gets off track for us, even if we mess up our whole life, there is hope and resurrection, because nothing is impossible for God. I made up this little tidbit so you can kind of, something for you to use in your everyday life. If you use determination, faith activation, it'll lead you to your destiny. Events did not happen the way that Martha and her sister Mary anticipated they would. In her mind, she just thought, surely Jesus will show up and save the day. And sometimes in our life, we think that same thing too. Sometimes we get in trouble. We just think God will show up like a genie, like, Jesus, I need you. You should be there. It doesn't work like that. And he will make everything better. In the story, he says that with Jesus, she thought that Jesus was going to come, that he would heal her brother. But that isn't what happened. Jesus did not make it to Bethany in time. In fact, Jesus purposely delayed his trip 2 days so he wouldn't show up until 4 days after Lazarus' death. Life was not going the way Mary had hoped. Her brother wasn't supposed to die. After all, this was Jesus, and we sometimes think that Jesus is, he is omnipotent, he is almighty, but we think that when we get in life crisis, he's just supposed to come right then. And sometimes those life crises that occur to us are sometimes our own fault. So he makes us wait patiently to see what the end results are going to be. Amen. How could Jesus allow something like this to happen? He's my friend. Yes, he is your friend, but sometimes when we make those mistakes or those things that we don't do like he says does, he has to give us time to think about it so he can come in and help. Even her expectations of Jesus were shattered because Jesus did not do what Martha thought he would. And that does happen. We think when we get in trouble that if he doesn't do it right then, it's like, oh Lord, he don't love me no more. But that's not true. I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life when I have wondered, Jesus or God, why have you allowed this to happen to me? I thought you were my friend. I thought you cared about me. Sometimes it feels as though God has let us down, even if we have deserved what we received. We still think God would help us out somehow.
That's right.
Yet God does not always respond in the way we expect.
Yeah.
And it's not tears that I cry because I know I messed up in the past, but I just thank God for where I am now. Now Jesus said to Mary, your brother will rise again. Jesus did not see Lazarus' death as God's derailed plan. Rather, Jesus knew God had a better plan all along. Unfortunately, Martha misunderstood what Jesus was saying. She thought Jesus was saying one of those comforting words you say to people at a funeral like, oh, we can rejoice because they are with the Lord now. What Jesus meant was, your brother will rise today. We know Martha misunderstood Jesus because she replied, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Martha believed that Lazarus would rise again at the day of resurrection, but she had no clue that Jesus meant she would see glory of God that very day. So if we go back to John 11:25, where it says, I am the resurrection, I am the life. He who believes in me will live. Even though he dies, he who ever lives and believes in me will never die. So do you believe this? We find different stories in the Bible where resurrection took place. Many saints rose from the dead at the resurrection of Jesus. That's Matthew 27:50 and 53. Or Jesus raised the son of the widow of Nain from the dead, Luke 7:11 and 15. The only thing that we must do is believe. When we believe, we shall see God's destiny for our lives. Like I said before, determination, faith, activation equals destiny. Just as Jesus had a destiny for his life, he also has a destiny for our lives. Now in Luke 21, verses 5 to 38, Jesus foretells his future. He tells what's going to happen to him. So he knew in his destiny that he must die for our sins so that we could have a better life.
Right.
Jesus does ask us to follow in his commandments so that we can be with him when it is our time to go. And if we do follow those things, then we will see him again. I believe Jesus wants us to realize the very power of resurrection and life is in him. And he is still very much alive today. And this resurrection and the life is still available to us today if we believe. Like Jesus replied to Martha, if you only believe, you will see God's glory. Jesus wants us to know there is hope in every situation and for every person because Jesus is alive. If Jesus, through his own death and resurrection, has made his resurrection life available to us today, don't you think Jesus can bring hope into your hopeless situations? Don't you think that Jesus can restore broken relationships, broken marriages, broken bodies? Don't you think that Jesus can restore hopeless in situations of hopeless people? And most importantly, do you believe Jesus can restore and bring new life to you? I do believe that Jesus can do that for you, and he has the power if only you believe. And in closing, now I want you to think about the curveballs you have experienced in life, the broken expectations, the lost dreams. Is it possible that God has allowed you to endure this experience so Jesus can bring you to the tomb and ask you, do you believe? Do you believe I am Christ, the Son of God? Do you believe I am the resurrection and the life? Will you trust that through Jesus nothing is impossible? No situation, no person, Nothing is too far beyond God's power and grace to save. I believe God can forgive. I believe God is a healer. I know God is a healer. He forgives when no one else will forgive. Sometimes you find people are so fickle. They'll be your friend today, but they won't love you tomorrow. But Jesus will always be there. The question is, will you still believe? I believe that by Jesus dying for us, there is hope for our destiny. And all we have to do is just believe. So with faith activation and destiny, we will succeed.